Okay, here we are at probably our first Minion Enterprise talk, right?
Is that absolutely our first one?
We'll call them me talks.
Me talk?
Yeah.
No, I think we'll stick with the whole thing.
I kind of like that as a difference in like the TED talks, right? These are the me talks.
Oh, okay.
See, I'm going somewhere. I'm trying to make us famous, dude.
Sure, keep going.
Okay, so welcome to our first me talk. I'm going to stick with that.
Okay.
Where we're going to stick with specific topics within Minion Enterprise and start teaching the real functionality inside of this thing, right? And this month we are going to talk about passing your security audits and getting ready for your security audits, or if you're not under any audits at all, just getting your security in line, right? So we're going to show you some of the things that we have to offer. Now, we can't even come up with enough demos to show you absolutely everything that you can do.
Right.
Because there's just way too much. But what we've done is we've got some really good data, we've got some really good demos, and I'll show you some of the SRS reports that we've put together for this thing, just to kind of help out your auditors or help out your managers, right? Because this is really a tool for DBAs, I consider, but there are going to be more people that are going to want to see this stuff, right? And this fits in with our enterprise philosophy of kick it back to the user if you can, right? The DBA shouldn't have to stop what he's doing and chase something down for 3 days because something crossed your mind.
Yeah, they're branding that these days as self-service BI and self-service information, that kind of thing, which sounds way better than why don't you take care of it? I'm busy.
Yeah, it sounds better than, leave me the hell alone economics, right? Okay. So with that in mind, we will just go through a couple of these slides. You know us, we're not really rich on slide decks, but we like to put up a couple every now and then. So this is our entire suite of products as it stands right now. That beautiful red CheckDB notwithstanding. It's in development right now, so look for it hopefully later this year.
Yeah, really falling in love with that red icon.
I always loved that red one.
Sure.
And in fact, I kind of wanted the color switched for backup, but I forgot to ask him, and we finalized it, and I was like, okay, fine. So today's going to be Minion Enterprise, but those ones down on the bottom are free modules, and you can get anything and everything you need out of them. We don't limit the functionality whatsoever.
No, anything that can be done in the standalone module, we attempted to put in the standalone module.
Right. The only things the only thing that Minion Enterprise brings to the mix is extended functionality that there's no way you can do unless you have all the data together.
Exactly.
But that doesn't really mean we're holding anything back. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about passing your security audits. Now, ME automatically collects all of your security data, and it helps you prepare for an audit, and we're going to show you how.
Right.
But it allows you to investigate areas for your audit so that you're ready before it starts. And what that really means is just making sure all of your ducks are in a row. And in what I like to call line of thought processing. Yeah. Because you're quite often saying, oh, well, I see this login here. Well, what about this on these other servers? Or what about, this data? Or what about that data? Or what about this aspect of security? Or what about that? Well, I see that we've got these AD accounts that are this, but how many of those are disabled, right? Are any of them disabled? When's the last time any of them were logged in? Stuff like that. So quite often when you're looking at security of aspects of your security, these questions pop through your mind, but you have no real way of solving them easily, right? You can't answer these questions very easily because that data just flat out isn't available. And these are the things that we're trying to make. I'm not even going to say make better. We're trying to make these things effortless.
We're trying to make them possible in some cases because in addition to the data scramble, there are some things like historical data you simply can't get unless you've already been doing it.
Exactly.
Which is the joy of Minion Enterprise, is it automatically doing all of that right out of the box.
Right, because there are different types of audit controls, right? Some audit controls have to be in place when the audit starts, right? But other audit controls you have to be able to show that you've been doing them for like 6 months or a year.
Right.
So really, we're helping you with both of them, and we're doing our level best to make it as effortless as possible. And so this helps us. This helps you do what we call living in audit mode. And this is one of my main principles as a DBA for a long time, is I like to live in audit mode, because it really started to get to me after like the third audit I was in, that they never really give you enough notice when the audit is coming. In fact, it's always, oh, well, the auditor will be here tomorrow.
Yeah, what fun would that be? Why prepare for an audit?
Yeah, right?
You know.
Why let me gather some of the stuff ahead of time? I can have it ready for him, right?
Right.
So not only do they not give me enough time, but also I had no idea where I was going to get some of this data, and it took me 3 and 4 days to pull some of this stuff together quite often. And the bigger my shop was, the more guys I had to pull in. Okay, you take this 200 servers, I'll take this 200 servers, and you take that 200 servers, right? And it's like, well, what the hell? I mean, that's a lot of time now. Those are, you know, if something happens in production, or if we're working on any projects or what, all of that stuff gets put on hold indefinitely until these audits get worked out, right? So it's just not a workable concept in today's IT market, where we're expected to do more and more and more. So this kind of thing needs to be as effortless as possible. So you need to live in audit mode. And then there's the demo. We're already at the demo.
Sure. We're not big on lots and lots and lots of slides. People want to see the meat of it.
That's right. So I'm going to jump straight in here. Now, some of the stuff we talked about during the intro, right? But we are going to expand this a little bit. But even the ones that saw, even if anybody was here that saw this from the intro to Minion Enterprise, we'll want to see it again, because it's still cool, right? It's like seeing X-Men again and again and again.
Absolutely. Hey, let me break in and say, do
Sure.
me a favor and embiggen that text just a little bit.
Oh, okay, sure.
25 or 150%.
150.
Ah, that's way better.
Okay, cool. All right, so we're going to start. We're going to start first off with looking at sysadmins. Now, I could get everybody. In fact, let's do that. Let's get everybody first. Except I could even connect to the database. There we go. I know. I did something.
Did you run the whole thing when you meant to run?
Probably.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, so I've got 706 logins in my current view, right?
Yeah.
Now we do that. That's something that we do in Minion Enterprise, is we have a collector table that holds all of that historical data.
Right, it goes out and gets information every day, every week, whatever, for the collection,
Let me
right?
close down Outlook if I can. But we also give you a current view, which gives you that last collection for every single server.
Right.
So you don't even have to, that's what I mean when I say we try to make it as effortless as possible. We don't even make you do the math to find the last collection for all of them. We do that for you. And every single table we have that has a collector has a current view as well, right? And they also have a previous view.
Right, so the batch before last for each server, and I love that, so you can compare, okay, well, what's changed between the most recent and the next most recent?
Exactly. So right now, most recently, we have 706 logins across all of our SQL boxes. Okay. And we also give you in this view, here, I'm going to close this off a little bit.
Yeah, I said it's really impressive for a company with 2 employees.
Yeah, I know, right? And we also give you a lot of information in here, right? We give you the service level and the version and the edition. So we give you a lot of other data that isn't in that base collector table. We go ahead and do a couple joins for you as well. So let's go ahead and look at all of the essays across the entire network. We've got 128 essays across the entire network. Is that good? Is that bad? I don't know. It depends on how many servers you have, right? Mm-hmm. But for right now, let's go ahead and focus in on a single server. Now, guys, this can be an interactive session if you want it to. If you have questions, just go ahead and call them out. We don't have anybody muted, right? This is a Minion Enterprise talk, right? It's not a Minion Enterprise lecture.
Right.
So, okay, so let's go ahead and focus in on MinionCon. And I'm going to narrow the data a little bit. So I've got all of my essays, or I've got all of my logins here. I've got 72 logins for this one particular box. Some of these guys are Windows groups, some of these guys are users, some of these guys are SQL logins like SA. But let's go ahead and narrow it down to Windows groups that are sysadmins, let's just cut to the chase here, right? So I know who the DBA group is. That's pretty self-explanatory. Although you quite often don't know who's in that group. I have found quite often that the AD guys will put people in that group that we didn't know about.
Sure, because, this vendor needs to have the same privileges, so you may as well put their account in there and this service account.
Exactly. Yeah. Some help desk guy, it doesn't really matter.
I'm sorry, was there a question? All right, if we wind up not being able to hear you, I'm monitoring chat, so you can put the question in via chat as well.
Okay. So we know what these two guys are, right? These guys are service groups. But this Minion budget SQL is disturbing for a couple reasons.
Yeah.
Number one, I have no idea what that is. And I don't think budget should be in anything SA related, right? So let's chase that down. This is one of the areas, and my box, there we go. This is one of the areas where we do a really good job, is helping you investigate this kind of anomaly so that you can see exactly what's going on. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look through the AD member current view, and again, that's the last collection. And Minion Enterprise goes out and gathers all of your AD information from AD, right? So we're going to search. Okay, good. So we've got all of the members of AD Budget SQL. And you'll notice here that some of these are groups. And my laptop's being really sluggish right now. So, but some of these guys are groups. I've got 55 rows in here. And I've got this number of groups right there. And I still don't know who's in SQL because I have no idea who's in those groups.
Yeah, there's nothing better than groups in groups in groups.
Yeah, subgroup after subgroup after subgroup.
And I've never been able to track that down myself because I don't have access to that information. And then I go and ask the AD guys, and they're like, yeah, we'll get back to you. Maybe.
Yeah, if they have it locked down, or if you're just not good enough to get that kind of information on your own, that kind of recursion can take a long time because I've got, several levels of subgroups in a lot of shops that I'm in. They can go, tens deep sometimes.
Yeah.
And I've got 1,000 boxes, 2,000 boxes. Yeah, I'm going to chase all that down by hand.
Yeah, and it's more common than you'd think.
Yeah. So this is what we're doing now, is we're trying to find a real list. Because here, let's go back here. We started here saying that, okay, let's say that this is an audit scenario or a pre-audit scenario, right? So I've got this pre-audit scenario where I've got to justify everybody, and we're going to say, well, that's our budget SQL group. And they're going to go, oh, okay, who's in that, right? So we're trying to decide who is in that. And right now, we've got who's in that, but unfortunately, some of them are groups. So that's where we are now, is we're trying to get all the way down here to figure out who is in this group, right? So that's what we're going to do now. We are going to run this SP that comes with ME, and it's called report.ad accounts in SQL by server name. So we're going to run it by this specific server name. Now, I could just run this SP and pass it in the server name, but instead I'm putting it into a temp table that I've created. And the reason I've done that is because the SP itself returns everybody. And what I'm interested in right this second is just who's in SA.
Right.
So I need to import that into a temp table and then select where the SQL account sysadmin equals 1, right? And I always preface everything with SQL account because this table merges the AD accounts and the SQL accounts. So I've got to preface all of the AD columns with AD account and all the SQL with the SQL account, so so you don't have name and is disabled and is disabled, right? So let's go ahead and run this. Oops. Now you see there, that was a product of the other run right there. Let me clear this out. Okay, good. So now let's try this again. There we go. So I've got 163 users in here. Now this is fully expanded because you notice that the account name, that the group name right here, these are those groups that were in that list before, right? That we didn't know what their members were. And here we've got their members. So I've got all of the accounts that are in those subgroups. And it could go subgroup after subgroup after subgroup. It could be 25 deep and we would still get all of them expanded. So we now have a full list of everybody that was in that budget SQL group. So we went from having one item in SA to 163 items in SA, and that's just the Windows groups, right? So this is one of our flagship security features, right? That we allow you to see everybody that's in here. And we had a customer who wanted me to demo this on their big box. He said, well, I'll tell you what, we've got our big SQL box that is like the most important thing in our org. And, you know, show me what this thing can do. Show me something I don't know about this box, about the security on this box, right? I said, sure, why not, right? I had no idea what I was going to find. I had never looked into that box before. We had just run a couple collections and that was it, right?
Usually a safe bet.
Yeah, yeah, it's usually a safe bet. So I ran this module against his server, and the first thing I found was I came across a Windows group that looked suspicious. I didn't know what it was. He didn't know what it was. So I ran AD expansion on it, and it expanded it to over 500 users that had SA on his most important SQL box in his entire shop. I mean, his jaw hit the floor. He was just...
That's a lot of free access.
I mean, he was just, oh my God, I don't know what to do, right? And he says, how did this happen, right? So then we ran our other one that we're going to show you in a little bit, right? And we saw that everybody had a common subgroup like 3 or 4 levels down. Somebody had accidentally put another big group inside of there, and that's where everybody came from. And it was a pure accident that had probably been there for years. Yeah. And so he went over there immediately to his AD guy, had him remove that, had me run another collection and run it, and boom, it went back up to like 17, which is far more manageable.
Absolutely.
Right? Now, let's take a look at these 17, dude, because that's still way too much. But let's take a look at that, but that's far better than 500 plus, right? So, and again, it was effortless. And then, okay, so now we've got this for our single box, but we don't care about single boxes in ME, do we?
No.
Not as much, right?
Much.
Now let's do it for the entire organization. So now I'm going to expand. I think I dropped that last one. We're going to find out now. So now I'm going to expand this to run AD accounts in SQL all. You notice it doesn't take any parameters because it's going to get every server in the organization. It'll take a couple more seconds, but oddly enough, not that many. Take about 4 or 5 seconds. There we go. Took 4 seconds, and we've got 227 user accounts that have SA across all of our boxes. So far, that's just guys coming in through Windows groups.
Yeah.
We still have SQL accounts and Windows accounts to add in, right? Because, I mean, yeah, these are Windows accounts, but again, they're coming in through groups. But we still have Windows accounts that are added to SA directly. So you notice I didn't drop the temp table this time because I'm going to add some of these things. But first, let's go ahead and take a look at account per server. So you can see per server, each one of these guys has, this one has 7 in SA, this one has 7 in SA, this one has 8 in SA. But if I were going to concentrate my security efforts on something, say maybe there was a problem server somewhere that the auditors may say, what the hell is this? Which one of these servers do you think it would be? It would probably be utility SQL with only 7, right?
No, I'm thinking no.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. It would be Minion.
It would be Minion.
Right? Because it's got 163 users in SA so far because we still haven't added those other ones, right? But this is a really good high-level way that if you're going to start a security effort, if they're going to say, we need to know if everybody on all of our servers that has SA really needs to have SA, this is an excellent place to start. Just start looking at the counts and see which ones have the highest numbers, right? You will fail your audits less. Now, those aren't the only two ways we can do it, by all and by server name, right? You could also do it, by application. You could also do it by SLA. So all of your gold servers you want to take care of first, and then all of your silvers and all of your bronze as you see fit. Chances are your bronze servers may not even be under audit, right? Yeah. Every box in your entire shop isn't going to be audited, just the ones that handle sensitive data, right? So like your box that handles, like Quest Spotlight or something, right? Probably won't be audited. It's a utility box. Okay. So now let's go ahead and add in the SQL logins and the Windows users to that same temp table. That's why I didn't drop that table before, because now we're going to add in, from logins current, we're going to add in the SQL logins and the Windows users that also have SA. So let me pull that in there. That adds an extra 97 across your LAN. I want to say that's not too bad, but I don't know, maybe it is. So now let's take a look at everybody together, how many that's going to give us. 324 across the entire organization. And you see some of these guys are null because some of these guys are Windows accounts and some of these guys are SQL accounts, right? Right. You would use a coalesce to get the actual, account name, right? But you can easily, but if you wanted to trim that down, then, you could trim that down to something like, I don't even want to use SQL account name here. I would probably do something like, I had something like that I was using a little bit earlier. Let me see if I can find that. Here we go. Let's try this instead. I was doing something else. Let me make sure I'm on the right server. There we go. And we'll find. Stop that. I'm trying to copy it, and it's not going well. All right, let me copy this instead. And I should be able to get something. There we go. So now I can see, because I just coalesced the SQL group and the SQL account and the AD account, right? So now I can see how many of these guys I have and what type they are, right? Now, login type is funny in this case that these clearly aren't groups, but they're coming in through groups. So the view marks them, so the query marks them as a group, right? We could probably do something about that. But right now, it's a feature. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not even going to classify it as a bug because it is technically coming in as a Windows group. And SQL sees this account as a Windows group. Yeah. So, So it is. So it is, yeah. But the point is that we have 324 and we have a breakdown of which type they are. So we could easily even break this down per server and say something like, how many Windows accounts versus how many SQL accounts do we have per server in SA? And you could even break it down like that, right? Okay. Moving right along. I'm actually going to save that because that's a good one. Okay. I'm going to stick this with I'm going to keep this with the star. I'm going to adjust my data a little bit in front of you guys so you guys can see that I know how to use comments. And okay, now let's switch a little bit and let's move on to following user access. Okay. And this is another area where we just excel. I mean, we do such a good job here. So let's say that, because the other one was working from the top down, right? We were starting at the server and we were saying how many users have SA. But let's take an individual user now and say how many boxes does this guy have logins to? Because that's quite often I've got 1,000 boxes, 500 boxes, 2,000, 1,500, right? And this one user, I want to know how far his reach is. How many servers does he have access to? And so that's what we're going to do here. I'm trying to raise that up a little bit. There we go. And so you can see that this one user has access to 21 boxes. Well, not 21 boxes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes. But he's got 21 logins, right? And I've seen this quite often where you get in the spin cycle of not being able to get a user out of a server, right?
Yeah.
So quite often, you would say, well, I've got this user coming into Minion Con, and he's doing stuff in there that he's not supposed to be able to do. So I don't know how to get him out of there. I noticed that he was in Budget SQL, so I took him out of Budget SQL, but he's still in there doing stuff. Well, if you want to get him out of Budget SQL, then you also have to take him out of FY 2011 Corporate, HR, Sales and Marketing, Finance, and IT. So you have to make sure that he's out of these groups as well, because this is the chain he's using to get in. This is the full path of the chain. He's directly in Budget SQL, but he's also coming into Budget SQL from corporate. He's also coming into Budget SQL through HR, and so on, right? So not only do we show you all of the servers that he has access to, but we also show you exactly how he's getting in there.
Right. It's surprising, I guess it shouldn't be, but it's a little surprising. Whenever we describe that first aspect of being able to blow out each group, people immediately ask before we can say, okay, and can you get a person and find out what they have access to? Well, as a matter of fact, yes,
yeah.
we can.
And you know why? Because that's that line of thought processing that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because people always say, well, okay, that's great, but you know it would be great. And that's the line of thought that we took as well when we wrote this. And that's the line of thought that they're going to take too. So all of you guys are instantly going to take that line of thought as well. So that's why we wrote this.
Yeah.
Now we can also do that for groups. So if you have a Windows group and you say, well, I want to know how many servers this group has access to.
Right.
Well, same thing. It belongs to MinionCon, it belongs to Client SQL Healthcare, and it belongs to Trackit SQL. And it's coming in through a Budget SQL to all, so it's coming in through that on all of these boxes. It doesn't have a direct link. It's not a direct login to any of these servers, but it's coming in as a subgroup through Budget SQL. Are you starting to see that Budget SQL may need to be revisited?
Maybe.
Because, man, this thing just happens to be everywhere, doesn't it? Okay. So that's how you can follow users through your system. So you can do this two ways, right? You can track how many users are on all of the boxes, and you can track how many boxes that a user has access to. So bottom down and top up, right? Now we're going to start password tracking, and this is more of that really good pre-audit investigation, right? This is the kind of thing you'd go through with your internal auditors, or you would just let your internal auditors just go to town on, right? You guys just go to town and do whatever you think needs to be done. So right now, you've got a requirement for this one account. Maybe it's a whole host of accounts, but right now we're going to use one as an example, that it be rotated every 3 months. Fair enough? So you need the password to be rotated every quarter. So, so good security practice.
Reasonably standard, yeah.
Yeah, reasonably standard, right? So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to see when the last time this AD account was rotated. And here we go. We've got, of course, the first result set is null because that's the one we have. But then it was rotated every 12 to 15 weeks. Somebody did it an extra month, and then every 12 weeks, and then 12 weeks after that. So we're more or less within the scope of doing it every 3 months, right? But if we weren't, then it would be really easy to ferret that out right here.
Sure, it'd be staring in the face.
Right. Now, like I said, somebody jumped the gun here. Maybe it was changed for another reason for that point, right? Maybe somebody left the organization and it was changed, as a precaution for something, right? Maybe you saw a heightened failed login attempts or something, so you decided to change it just in case, right? Started to see some sort of attack there, right? I don't know, but we can see here that 12 weeks is what we should be, right? We were 2 weeks late on this one, and a week late on that one, or 3 weeks late on this one, and a week late on that one. But in general, we're doing what we should be doing, and you can track that for every single account that you want to track. And this is that that history that is impossible to come by, because nobody is tracking this kind of thing at the AD level. Even nobody's even tracking this at the SQL level, right? But this is at the AD level, and nobody's tracking this kind of thing. So this is, again, just effortless. You just write a simple query, and then you just use it forever, right? Or put it in an SRS report. Like I said, you write the query, put it in a report, and then let the auditors just go to town.
Yeah.
There's no reason why we should be doing that. Now, we're doing the exact same thing here with SQL logins, because just because it's a SQL login doesn't mean it doesn't have a requirement to rotate that password, right? So we're doing the same thing here. Look, there we go. So now, this is interesting, because at the AD level, as far as SQL is concerned, you're only changing the AD account. It doesn't matter if it has access to 1,000 boxes or just one box. It's the same AD account.
Sure.
But this one SQL account can exist on several boxes. So here I can see on every single box that this thing has access to how often it's being rotated. So I can see that it was rotated, and this is weeks since the last password reset, right? So I can see that it goes 26, 39, 52, 52, 65. We're really not doing a very good job on Midnight SQL of managing this account. It's not being rotated very often at all, right? In fact, the last couple of times, it's been, it's been a year plus every single time, right?
Right.
But on this box, on MinionCon, we're doing a fine job, 13 weeks and 14 weeks for the most part, right? So we're doing a really good job of rotating it on this box, but not on the other box. Maybe this box is under audit and this box isn't.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that only tribal knowledge will ferret out, right? But at least now we have a global view across the entire enterprise of any issues that we may have with rotating our SQL passwords. And we did something very specific here. We're looking for this one password. We could look for all of them if we wanted to, but chances are they don't all have that requirement, right? But what they may have a requirement on is make sure that they have the password policy enforced. So new in 2005, we're talking 10 years ago now, we finally got the ability to make sure that SQL accounts follow your domain password complexity policy, right? So I know a lot of companies now, I get this request all the time, are looking to see across all of their servers, they want to standardize and make sure that all of their SQL passwords follow the password enforcement policy, right? And here we are going to check out of, let's go ahead and run this without. So out of 354 SQL accounts across the enterprise, we've got 101 that don't have that aren't following the password policy. So a third don't have it. And look, we're going here by service level as well. So you've got all of the information here that you need, right? So maybe, again, I would concentrate on all of my gold servers. I'm trying to highlight that, but it's not working. There we go. So here I could concentrate on all of my gold servers first and make sure that my really important stuff gets taken care of first. And I've got really nice complex passwords on those, and then move down to my bronze and my silver servers. Oh, and I've got some more gold servers down here. So I would probably like to sort this list by something else, right? But look how effortless it is to write a query, I mean, that's absolutely nothing. We've got the data right there, and this is from the most current one, right? So again, you could have compared previous and current to see if any of them had changed. But this is the most current one, so it's an effortless. The only reason I have this list here, this column list here, is because there's just so much data in that table. I wanted to narrow it down to just what I was interested in, right? Sure. So what I want to show you next is just a couple of these reports that we've got here. Now, these would be the kinds of things that you would give your auditors. So I'm going to go on AD accounts not disabled. And this report is just going to show you one of the things that we already did. We showed you the SQL, the DBA side of this, right? I'm going to show you the auditor side of it. Now, forgive how long this takes because it's on my laptop. And you know how laptops and SRS are.
They're like peas and carrots?
No, they're more like
peanut butter and carrots?
Yeah, peanut butter and carrots. Actually, people like that, don't they?
Do they?
Well, they eat peanut butter and celery, but why not peanut butter and carrots too?
That's different.
Anyway, so what I've got here is I've got accounts to disable. And what this is this shows you, these are all AD accounts, right? Is it shows you which AD accounts haven't been logged into in a while. And you can set the number of weeks up here. So, so I've got 48 weeks, 14 weeks, 58 weeks, right? Let's go ahead and set this one to 50. And let's see some of these lower ones disappear.
After a minute.
After a minute, yeah. It really doesn't run this slow on a server.
No.
Yeah, see that loading? That's all SRS. The SQL pulled back the data forever ago. Come on, dude. Seriously?
So how you been lately?
I'm all right.
Oh, cool. Have a nice time. Oh,
there we go. Okay, so you can see here that all of those lower ones disappeared. And so you can set what you're looking for. You can set what that means to you. So you don't have to say, well, you don't have to put up with my 30-day default or whatever, right? With my 2-week default or 8-week default. If you want to say somebody hasn't done it in a year, which is pretty close to 50 weeks, right? And then you can say that. If you want to set it at 6 months, however many weeks that would be, 26, right? Then you can do that as well. And for each one of these, you can even see the impact that it's have. So if I click on this guy right here, I can see it'll bring up another report that shows which servers that this guy has access to. At least it's supposed to. Man, this box has just been running slow today. I was running it last night, and it was more or less zipping along. And this morning, something is
tired.
Yeah, something is tired this morning. So I'll give it just another second here. Okay, not literally a second. There we go. So we've got the same report we had on the SQL side here. So for this account, I can see that it's got access to this many servers. And so when you're looking to disable these guys, you can see the impact that it's going to have on your organization, how many of these SQL boxes that it has access to. So it's just sort of an impact analysis there. Even for your auditors, they can go through every single one of those accounts, and they can say, okay, well, this one has access to this guy, and this has access to only one server. This has access to 500 servers, and maybe that could be positive or negative impact. So, you can say it's going to be a positive impact that we have. That we've saved ourselves some catastrophe across 100 servers by disabling this account, or we can say that, oh man, if we disable this account, we could possibly have, a negative impact on any of these servers. But since it hasn't been logged into in a year, maybe that's not much of an impact at all. I've got one more I want to show you, I believe. I said I have one more to show you.
In a minute.
Yeah. Okay, and that is this one, the login password enforcement. Now that's, again, the same one that we just looked at on the SQL side, on the DBA side, where we're looking at how many SQL let me try that again. How many SQL accounts have the password enforcement turned on?
Okay.
Right? The password that follow the password enforcement policy. So here you can see how many accounts, how many SQL accounts are on each box, and the blue represents the ones that do have it enabled. So Perf SQL SP looks really good. It's only got a small number of them that aren't following the password policy, right? But you get ones like Test SQL ADP and Midnight DB Test that are abysmal, right? They've got a high number of accounts that aren't password, that don't have the password enforcement enabled. And of course, down here we got just the ones that need it, right? So we give you the last collection time, and then we give you the name of the account, so you can see exactly which accounts on that server are outside of your new policy, right? So, but this is a really good way, again, a good visual way to know where to start. The more red, start there, right? And it's a really good way too to see, oh, well, Trackit SQL has 60 accounts. 60 accounts? You know, maybe you'd want to go see. But at least they're all perfectly managed.
Yeah.
That's good stuff, right? So let's see. I want to go back here real quick. And that is the last of the demos. The last thing I want to say here is, there we go. Go to minionware.net to get your free 90-day trial of Minion Enterprise. And again, this isn't even everything that we can do for you security-wise. This just gives you a really good idea of the type of stuff that's in here. We can't even conceive of all the questions you would want to ask of the data, right? We can't conceive of all of the ways that you would want to put this together with all the other data that's in there. But this is a really good demonstration of some of the stronger features. And there are going to be nuances in all of the little things that you ask it to do, right? You can use this to track when accounts come and go off of servers,
Sure.
when people come and go out of AD groups.
Set up alerts for when new SA members get added and you didn't add them.
Absolutely, yeah. Set up alerts for even if somebody comes in from SA from a Windows group, right? If somebody's added to your DBA group, right? So these are all things that you can monitor and that you can look at the history on and see when people come and go out of these groups, or when groups come and go out of other groups, right? If you're interested in that. So just so many different ways that you can use this history. We've got this is going to be online soon, but we've also got the intro demo that shows you some of the other functionality in ME, right? 2.1 that we just released not too long ago.
Yeah.
And I just found out from this slide that the next one is on September 1st. We don't have a topic for that one yet.
Not yet, but we will.
But we will. And so there you go. We will open this up to any questions or comments that you guys have as of right now.
As usual, people are completely overwhelmed.
Yeah. Well, we probably stopped broadcasting like 40 minutes ago.
Oh, man.
And we've just been sitting here talking to ourselves.
Well, at least it's recorded.
Yeah.
No, we've probably turned off the recording as well.
Yeah, probably. Okay, so since there are no questions, we will go ahead and turn off the recording, but we're going to stick around for a couple more minutes.
Absolutely.
In case anybody's shy. And you guys have a great day, and we will see you at the next ME Talk.
Thanks, Sean, Jen.